So I gotta tell you something, monsters. I've got a confession. You ready?
Yeah.
You don't sound happy about this.
Mm-mm.
Monsters likes it when we plan stuff out before the recording.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Lazlo is not a very good show. No, like, hear me out on this. Before we get to the actual episodes, I do want to just, I watched like pretty much all of season 1 of Lazlo today in preparation for this.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I mean, hey, to be fair, maybe the show got better in its later seasons, but Lazlo, like, as an adult, I get exactly nothing out of this show. And hey, it's not made for me. Like, that's fine. I don't think Lazlo is an awful show or a bad show. I think it's just an okay show. And, like, it has this problem where it really badly wants to be SpongeBob. Like,
Don't you dare.
the production music and sound effects are the same from SpongeBob.
That's because they had the same guy.
Yeah, but you don't do that. When you have a cartoon that is so immensely popular that everyone associates those sound effects and sound cues with SpongeBob, you don't do that unless you're explicitly trying to rip them off or emulate them. Like,
Well, it's no Coconut Fred, first of all, but also, and I always point this out, people fail to realize that Rocco came along, hired people like Steven Hillenburg and various people. What?
We're not talking about what's fair or what's like, you know, hey, Joe Murray inspired SpongeBob because he did.
Which then in turn, yeah.
He did. This isn't a fact of like, well, I think they're ripping them. This is a fact that when I, a person who watches SpongeBob, watched this episode of Camp Lazlo, all I can think about is, man, that's a sound cue from SpongeBob. That's a sound effect. That's a song. That's one of the sea shanties they use. Are they going to play the Krusty Krab theme? They might. That's all I can think about. It's not a matter of like, well, you know, it's plagiarism, because it's not. They use the same sound library. That's whatever. But I whether they knew better or not, you do not emulate the most popular cartoon in sound effects without realizing that's going to be distracting to some people.
I can see that, but it's just the sound. I know that
sound design is really big in cartoons.
Don't get me wrong. One of my favorite, my absolute favorite aspects of Camp Lazlo is the sound design, and it is such a vital aspect of it. But that's just one criteria.
Okay, well, what about Mr. Lawrence? How?
Okay, he came from Rocco.
Yeah, but his voice for Filbert is different from his voice for Plankton. But his voice for, what is it, Edward in this show, is not different from his voice for...
His voice for Edward, I think, is more like Filbert than it is Plankton.
I think it's Plankton because of the anger. Filbert's more timid, generally. They're similar voices, but I'm saying in addition to the sound effects, in addition to the music, in addition to having the happy-go-lucky character, the animal character, Lazlo has a case of wannabe SpongeBobitis. It does. The style of humor too. The grumpy character versus the optimistic character. And again, these are things from Rocco as well, but when you add all of these elements together, it's just like, this is kind of SpongeBob light.
I can see that, but I mean, just, I have far too much respect for Joe Murray to think that he saw SpongeBob and wanted to approach Cartoon Network saying, I want to do that, but on Cartoon Network.
I'm not accusing him of trying to rip SpongeBob off. I'm just saying that whether it's coincidental, whether it's planned, whatever the reason, it emulates SpongeBob in a lot of ways, and by comparison, is nowhere near as good.
I will accept your criticisms.
That's fair. You can love the show all you want. I wanted to surprise you with this because I thought it'd be fun. Also, one more thing. The Boomerang app. So, not for this episode. This is the one that didn't have it, but for all the other ones, the intro, right? You know, it starts with Slugman going, attention campers, attention campers. For some reason, the first second of the intro is in French on all the other copies. So it's attention campers, attention campers. Like, it literally is like that. Go to the Boomerang app. I think there's a free episode that you can watch. Look at it, and it's just a stupid mistake.
Attention camper.
Right? He's like French immediately. And I went and checked on YouTube. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think that's how the intro goes. I don't think he's French for a second. Although he's like a snail, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, so let's actually get into the episodes here. So I guess I'll give the plot for Rocco. So basically, Heifer runs into Filbert and sees Filbert with this diary, and Filbert drops the diary. Heifer finds it, wants to read it. Rocco comes along and is like, "Oh no, you cannot read a diary." And then of course Rocco reads the diary out of curiosity, and it turns out that Filbert is an alien that wants to destroy the human race and high five people to death and all this sort of stuff. And then of course they see Filbert doing all the things that are in his journal and lead them to believe that he is indeed an alien. And yeah. And then basically the ending is that they read the story and we see this version of the story they're reading where he really is an alien.
Yeah.
But then it cuts back to the real world and they're like, oh no, he's not. But then they still don't let him in their house because they're still not entirely sure. So the episode, they leave it ambiguous. They lean towards he's not an alien, but they do leave it just ambiguous enough that's like, that's alright, maybe he is. I don't know. I've never seen him high five anyone else. That's,
right.
Want to give the Camp Lazlo description?
Sure. So, just to kind of sum it up real quick, the Squirrel Scouts are convinced that Lazlo, Raj, and Clam are aliens.
Okay, that was really quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to kind of provide a quick point, I mean, it does kind of start off stupid because there's at least, more of a reason for them to be convinced in Rocco because of the diary, whereas it's just
the weird, angry, gym teacher woman that watches over the Squirrel Scouts. That's not the main lady.
Miss Mucus.
Yeah, she just hates men, and she tells the girls that men are all from a different planet or something, and then that's what gets them to think that, oh man, these boys must be aliens, which is oh, okay, all right.
She was just like, with any experience with a man I've ever had, they've all been from a different planet.
It's like,
and
man,
I think that was just supposed to be like an offhand joke, not like an actual thing.
Right.
But the girls took it seriously.
Well, I mean, with this show, there are technically aliens in this show, so
right.
Maybe I don't know. She doesn't seem
maybe she dates a bunch of aliens.
Well, she doesn't seem like the type of person who attracts very pleasant partners. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
But yeah, the Rocco, the explanation of the diary, it makes a little more sense. Now, in both cases, things get escalated because obviously, that isn't enough to prove to the girls, these are definitely aliens, and that isn't enough to prove to Rocco that, Filbert's definitely an alien. But the girls go and spy on the boys, and they're messing around with static shock, and they're all, lit up. And it seems it's similar to what Gretchen is reading about in her book, which is, nice confirmation bias for them that, yes, they're aliens. Whereas with Rocco and Heifer, they see Filbert doing all the weird things described in the book, putting
mustard in his armpit.
Yes, things that don't make any sense otherwise. So
going to chewy chicken.
Yep, in both cases, that's kind of a very the story escalates in the same way.
Yeah,
and in fact, even structurally, the Camp Lazlo episode begins with them resuscitating. There's a training dummy for medicine. And they're messing around with it, and it's completely irrelevant to anything else. The dummy comes back in the episode, but it's otherwise unrelated. Whereas with Rocco, it's similar sort of thing, but it's with the reading the diary itself, which is the diary is important, but there's this whole song and dance about Rocco wanting to read it but not wanting to read it, and that's ultimately kind of detached from the rest of the. It's like a lead-in. Both of them are lead-ins. So I just want to read this. I want to read this little Wikipedia thing that's on the Camp Lazlo page. Okay. Murray felt that Camp Lazlo successfully appealed to younger children because his prior experiences with his own children helped him determine details that children found humorous. Murray said that he resisted the urge inside him to micromanage this production and instead approved aspects and contributions related to the show. He said that he had a lot of pre-production time and therefore details became established before the show aired on television. His main philosophies expressed include the phrase, be who you are, and that you should always question authority unless it's a safety issue.
Lumpus.
Here's the thing. This, to me, this is much, much, much heavily neutered Rocco humor in Camp Lazlo.
It is.
I could tell that he is trying to write for a young audience. And I think that, like, my philosophy on writing, especially for kids, is write what you think is funny. Maybe don't include some of the more, the risque jokes, but still what you think is funny. Because the second you start writing for what you think kids find funny, you are now writing for a hypothetical person that may or may not even exist. Of course, there's focus testing, and of course there are things that kids do genuinely like, but I find that if your heart isn't in it, if you're not writing something that you find funny or that you find interesting or motivated, if you're like trying to appeal to a demographic specifically, it shows. And I think, like, Camp Lazlo none of this made me laugh.
Really?
Yeah, no, none of it.
Like, I mean, of course you can tell that Lazlo, in comparison to Rocco, doesn't have nearly as many innuendos or sexual references and whatnot, but, like, I still found Camp Lazlo funny. I love the expressive faces, the super, super dynamic sound design, and all the musical cues.
The sound design.
I get that it's reminiscent of SpongeBob, but that doesn't make me love it any less.
I mean, yeah, it didn't. And I totally understand it's not a show made for me, so I'm not like sitting here like, oh, this show doesn't appeal to me exactly. Right. But
I admit I have some nostalgia bias too.
If I'm the one like reviewing it and talking about it, I'm gonna talk about it from my perspective. I might be like, well, I can see where a kid might like that joke, but I'm not gonna sit here and try to judge this episode from a perspective of someone that I'm not.
Right.
I'm just saying that I didn't find it funny. I didn't the episode made me laugh a decent bit. Lazlo did not.
Well, the thing is, like, in the High Five of Doom, it's mostly like, it's merely speculation based on, like, fictional stuff. Whereas, like, I feel like the Squirrel Scouts actually have a reason to, I mean, of course, they're children, but they have, like, a reason to believe that the Jelly Bean Scouts are actually aliens because of, the visuals that they see, like the giant display of the static and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same exact way in Rocco. They're both actually, they both go off of a book. It's just, for Rocco, it's a book that's a diary, which seems more personal, whereas with Gretchen, it's like, it's obviously like a kid thing. Like, you read something in a book and then you see something that seems to prove it, so you're just like dead set that that's gotta be the truth.
Yeah. With the Lazlo episode, I thought that the ending line wasn't that clever, because I thought the ending of Rocco where they were just reading the whole time, and then, they were still speculative about Filbert. I thought that was really funny.
Yes.
But with Lazlo, at the end of the episode, they get the ice cream, and then it's the Squirrel Scouts looking on and like, oh, everybody knows that aliens don't eat ice cream. No, everybody doesn't know that. Like, yeah, there's nothing remotely funny about that.
Yeah, well, the ending is that the Squirrel Scouts they gave Lazlo, because, like, there's a through line where at the beginning they want ice cream because it's a hot day, and Olympus won't let them do it. And so that's what they fleece the girls out of at the end of the episode. And the joke is that the girls put frozen glue in the ice cream containers, and that's what they ate, and then their brain freezes stick. And it's like,
they couldn't tell that it was frozen glue.
Yeah, and why do they get to be punished? I don't understand. Like, the logic is, so here's how things go. The Jelly Beans are minding their own business. They don't involve the girls in anything. Like, they're not a part of anything. The girls spy on them, assume they're aliens, and then tie them up, like kidnap them in the middle of the night, tie them up, and then the Jelly Beans play along with it. Like, Lazlo plays along with it, but it's like, that's why they need to be punished? Like, they're in the wrong because after being kidnapped out of their beds in the night, Lazlo decides to play a little prank on them, / tries to get them out of the situation that they're in. And then tries to get ice cream out of them. Like, they need to be punished for that? I don't understand. The Squirrel Girls are definitely in the wrong in this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, I guess you could say that in the very last line where Lazlo starts to joke about them being aliens again, like, they kind of get revenge, but that's like literally the last line as the camera's like fading out. Like,
I'll get more friction.
Yeah. I mean, that's all I've got, really. Like, Rocco is the funnier episode. I thought it was a lot more clever. I thought it was a lot more, like, the fake outs, the justifications, I loved the bit with Rocco not wanting to read the diary. Like, oops, it fell on the ground, completely closed. And then he gets disappointed. Like,
That was really funny.
Yeah, good joke, good setup. The jelly beans trying to resuscitate the thing while Lumpus is like disinterested. I couldn't care less.
I did find humor in that, but
okay. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. There you go. But the other thing too is that these are like the same plot. And then Lazlo uses the plot again, and it's like, dude, if anything fits the rehash of in the recast, it's this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not original.
So, by your recent statements, I'm sure we know which one you preferred.
Yeah, of course. But what do you think?
Okay, listen. I'll defend Lazlo to my grave. Love that show. Super underrated in my opinion. However, I do believe this is one of the weaker episodes, and I do like High Five of Doom more. Just for further reference, I don't recommend checking out this episode if you are interested remotely in Lazlo. I'd recommend episodes like Racing Slicks or I've Never Been in a Sub or Burpless Bean, but this is definitely one of the weaker episodes. Lazlo is definitely a bit too energetic, very much reminiscent of SpongeBob.
That's another thing. Well, I do want to also say that this is the first season of Lazlo, whereas this is the last season of Rocco. So there is definitely a little bit of a learning curve in there, and I'll give. And
Lazlo does expand. He becomes less annoying as the show progresses.
Well, that's the thing. It's like the characters are, and again, I mean, hey, this is the fourth season of Rocco, so fair enough. But like the characters are so much more characters, like fully fleshed out characters in the Rocco episode, where you get like Rocco's wanting to be a good guy, and then the temptation. You get Heifer being just this big fat glutton goofball. You get Filbert being this eccentric weirdo. I don't get character trait. I get Lazlo is an energetic monkey, and that's like the only character trait I get. And then the girl. For some reason, this is the era of like unrequited creepy crushes in Cartoon Network's history. Because
I was never really a fan of the Squirrel Scouts in general.
Yeah,
if I'm being entirely honest,
that's fair.
They don't really have a big reason to be there other than just love interests.
Better by comparison. Better by comparison.
Yeah, just like a foil to a very clean, proper foil to the rundown Camp Kidney.
Yep. Does Lazlo get better? Like the show in general, would you say so? Because I did only watch the season 1 episodes, but like, dude, Lazlo gets stuck to a sea lamprey did not do it for me.
So here's the thing.
And that was the episode that Joe Murray wanted to be the first episode. It didn't air first because Cartoon Network was like, we want to
Parasitic Pal.
Yeah, well, Cartoon Network's quote is like, we wanted to establish the character better before attaching a parasite to him for the whole episode.
With the Gone Fishing episode?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. So, in a similar way to Ed, Ed and Eddy, it kind of starts to venture out beyond Camp Kidney more. They start to explore more around Leaky Lake and its remote areas in terms of location. Characters become a bit more developed. Like, you learn some new things about Clam. You see family members of the Kidney Scouts, and there's also the Origin TV movie that came on later in the show called Where's Lazlo, which I really enjoy. And also Lazlo, I think, does become a more original and less irritating and more toned down character. So, but even though I will say that the majority of my favorite episodes in the series come from the first few seasons.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Boomerang's got you covered. Yeah, it's not even just the comparisons. Like, just looking at it alone, it does scream to me that era of Cartoon Network where it's just like, it's not very funny. It's not very meaningful. It doesn't have to be insightful. It doesn't have to be even funny. It just has to be like one of those things. It has to be something. And I just don't get, I get vibes of camp, obviously. Like, that's a big deal in the show. And to be fair, there's not a ton of shows about camp. But other than that, like, the characters don't scream to me. The stories, I don't know. It's the combination, and then
it's just my love of dumb humor, because like there's just so many dumb characters in the show, like Chip and Skip and Clam, and I love that. I eat that stuff up.
Well, it's just, and then on top of,
Maybe it's not for everybody.
but on top of me finding it bland, it's just like, well, so you got the sound effects, the music cues, like all that from SpongeBob and everything else from Rocco. Same voice actor on the main character.
Even though it's not an Australian accent.
Right, but it's still the same. It's still the same voice actor. A lot of the same writing team. Some of the same stories. Like, it's just it's a lot of the same, and it's just like, well, I don't know. It seems to be a watered down version of Rocco, and I don't like that. I don't know. I feel like the camp thing. If it wasn't for the camp aspect, this show would just be like nothing. Like, it would have been passed over completely.
I think camp.
Mr. Monsters Review.
Yes, sir.
In 15 words or less, please, tell me what happens in the Camp Lazlo episode, Strange Trout from Outer Space.
I'm not going to give you sentences. I'm just going to give you, like, keywords. Samson, aliens, cheese, feet, fetishes, Canadians. Was that sufficient?
I don't know where you go from there.
Okay. Samson is abducted by aliens, then believes that the new Canadian scouts are aliens. Because apparently, even in an episode where there are literal aliens, we still need the plot line of someone believing characters who are not aliens are aliens.
Well, here's the thing. At least it's not ambiguous about it. At least it's clear cut who are the aliens and who aren't.
No, it's not.
What do you mean, no, it's not?
What do you mean, what do I mean, no, it's not?
The Canadians clearly aren't aliens. And then the aliens are the aliens.
At the
like,
end, at the
episode,
very end, they're clearly not aliens. Is that what you mean?
Wait, like to the audience or to the characters?
Yeah, well, like what? Because Samson still acts like they're the aliens.
Because the Canadians were just weird. Like, they weren't actually aliens.
Canadians are weird.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, compared to the other episodes, like Rick Platypus, like, is he an alien or is he not?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. At least this one does make a clear statement that the Canadians are, to our knowledge, not aliens. They're just cheese thieves.
Let's get out of here, eh?
They should have had them be voiced by Antonucci.
How do you not love that?
Because I just watched the same episode that we watched 3 of last week. That's how I could not love this.
I mean, I'll admit, it's definitely among the weaker episodes. I feel like I'm forced with saying that every time I talk about Camp Lazlo.
Mm-hmm. It's because they're all weak episodes.
False. No. But yeah, I mean, there's some rehash.
Yeah. It's 11 minutes, but I think it's kind of worse because
It's interesting that Lazlo is not really prominent in either of these episodes. Like, they went with, like, it was Samson and then the
Nina.
Girl Scouts.
Yeah, the Girl Scout trio. Which is interesting, because, like, you'd think the appeal would be seeing, like, how the characters interact with this, but in this episode, we don't even really get that.
Well,
it's like...
Well, that's what every other episode was.
I almost wonder if it was a reference to that other episode where the Girl Scouts thought that the beans were aliens. That, like, all right, we already have the Nina who's, like, knows something about aliens. Like, let's have them interact with the aliens. Like, we've already kind of seen what Lazlo as an alien is like, or pretending to be one.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Or they could just not do that plot line.
Yeah, no, I don't. Because Camp Lazlo is not afraid to just have aliens be aliens, so why did we need a plot line about... Like, what was the point of this?
Oh, cheese orbs or strange trout?
I'm talking about strange trout. We're going one at a time here. We're not talking about cheese orbs yet. But what was the point of this?
Yeah, that's actually what my question was at the end too. Is like, what did this all lead to? Like,
because honestly, if you're looking at it like a big, it's got a big story. It's all connected, right? You got Blue calling the aliens down. You got Ed and Eddie doing like research on aliens. You got Rick Platypus sending out some sort of AV call to the other aliens or whatever the heck he was doing. And then you got this, which is just like, I mean, they abduct, like, at least the cheese orbs does something for the overall story. even if it's dumb.
I don't know. This one to me felt like the filler episode. That's kind of what it was, because it doesn't really. I mean, as thin as the overarching plot may be, it doesn't add anything new. It's just like, okay, they're going to do something wacky. Oh, it didn't really work out. On to the next thing.
Well, that is the question. Do you want to consider these together a story because they kind of are, or do you treat them as two separate entities?
I mean, they're a part of the overall Cartoon Network Invaded thing, yes, but...
Well, no, I mean, like, one episode ends, and then it picks up, like, right after that in the next one.
But they don't have anything to do with each other, other than the fact that the aliens are there. These two episodes have as much to do with each other as, you know, the Foster's episode and the Ed and Eddie episode. It's all just the same vague connections.
All it really did was, it's like, they tried at the boys' camp, and it's like, oh, that didn't work. Let's try the girls' one.
Let me ask you a question. Does Samson even show up in the other episode? No. So what's even, like, do the Girl Scouts show up in the first episode? No.
Well, maybe it was just that they couldn't think of a good alien episode, and
maybe it's because no one could think of a good alien episode, and yet for some reason Cartoon Network really wanted aliens.
Camp Lazlo loves resorting to just beating the crap out of Samson. I mean, personally, I like those episodes where they terrorize Samson.
Classic comedy. Yeah, hey, gee, you know what other show has a character that's tormented a lot? What's the name of that show? It doesn't have anything else to do with Camp Lazlo, so I don't know why I can't place it.
Is it SpongeBob torturing Squidward?
Very good, girl. You got it. Yeah,
hey.
It's because Camp Lazlo is just SpongeBob
but here's
light.
The thing. Like, I don't feel bad for Squidward. I feel bad for Samson, but it's also, like, it's funny watching him get, like, hit by a volleyball and stuff.
You feel bad for him, but it's more funny to you?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so sadistic.
All right.
I know.
Okay.
It's only funny if they feel pain.
I think this episode also subverts some tropes and has some pretty funny references.
No.
Actually, no, it doesn't subvert anything. What I meant to say is it references, because, you know, the feet thing, and also there's a wide shot of the UFO, and you hear a bunch of slapping, and the aliens pull out Samson's underwear, and who knows what happens. Maybe it's a South Park reference.
What are you talking about? What are you on, Monsters?
I think he's an alien.
He might be.
That explains the green.
Okay.
That explains the love of Camp Lazlo.
So, I don't know if this is exclusive to South Park or if this is just a
Okay.
general I don't know.
All right, you're thinking
the
of
aliens,
certain things.
butts, yeah.
Right. Aliens and butts. Okay, I gotcha.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's just them giving him a wedgie. That's all I took away from it. Not even a wedgie, it's just a weird jockstrap slap. I don't, like, did we need that? Do we really need Samson's Speedo getting yanked?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Look,
there's a good reason for it. It shows up at the very end of everything.
Oh yeah, the main catalyst that ties it all together.
Yep. But we'll get there.
You gotta appreciate the little things with Camp Lazlo. I know that it's like...
Because that's all you can appreciate, because the big things aren't
I know it's lowest common denominator humor to add A after every sentence for a Canadian. But the way that... I don't know what it is about it. It made me laugh out loud. How, like, innocent they are. And they're just like, hey, how you doing, eh?
I wonder what the Ed and Eddie team thinks of the Camp Lazlo episode. That's a trick question, because they certainly didn't watch it.
Yeah.
Could you explain this to me, Monsters? Like the fiddle music. What is that referencing?
Oh, yeah, where they're just like, nothing's more scary than fiddle music.
What is that referencing?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, great. Like, is it...
I can't tell if that was just random, like, oddball humor or...
Right.
I think it was. I can't think of anything it would be referencing either.
Because if anything, like, when I think of alien music, it's like that...
Ooh,
woo, yeah.
Whatever that instrument is. The, scimitar.
It's like an electric, thing.
Okay, so then what about the foot thing? What is that referencing?
I don't think that's referencing anything. I think that's just a foot joke.
Okay. They got the word fetish in here.
Yeah, When do you ever hear a cartoon actively use the word fetish?
Maybe there's a reason why they don't.
Yeah.
Because it's weird.
I vaguely feel like this was brought up like on a different recast episode, but does Camp Lazlo use music from SpongeBob? Because I heard a few musical stings, and I was like, wait a second.
Camp Lazlo is nothing but SpongeBob light. That's all it is. I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but it's nothing but just baby SpongeBob, or SpongeBob at camp. So to clear it up, SpongeBob uses a musical soundtrack library, the same kind of library and any show can use if they pay enough money. That's why Curb Your Enthusiasm has used the same music as SpongeBob before. It's just, other cartoons realize how big an impact SpongeBob has, so maybe you want to avoid using, like, the Krusty Krab theme or something, because, like, it's so tied in mind share to SpongeBob. Legally, they have every right to use it, but when the show also has like 86,000 other similarities to SpongeBob, using music that's exactly from SpongeBob out of this library that certainly has thousands of tunes comes off as a little bit plagiarism-y, intentional or not.
Wait, so some of those songs aren't written for SpongeBob?
Almost none of them are.
Wow. All right.
To quote the great Wilt from Cheese A Go-Go, objection. I'm not actually objecting anything. That's completely accurate. But
that's crazy how they have like such like a social capital on these soundtracks that even though they're free to use, well, not free to use, but like, wow.
Well, of course,
that's
dude.
Awesome.
I mean, if you were making a cartoon, right, and you had access to this library, which again, I'm sure it's a library with hundreds or thousands of songs. It's not a library with 10 songs on it. Like, I feel like it almost has to be intentional because, like, why would you use those specific songs? And in 2006 and beyond, when SpongeBob was already a super well-known icon.
I'm surprised SpongeBob didn't just buy out the songs, like, and make them, like, only to the show. I'm sure they could probably do it.
But why would they? What reason would they have? They're already in mindshare, their SpongeBob songs.
Yeah.
When I hear this, I don't think, wow, SpongeBob's lazy for using a sound library. I think, wow, they really are going to use the same music as SpongeBob.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does give, like, SpongeBob more of, like, relevancy, like, the more you find excuses to talk about it. Like, right now we were talking about Camp Lazlo, and now we're talking about SpongeBob, so sneaky.
I mean, devil's advocate here, I am the devil's advocate. No, if Camp Lazlo's a devil.
And it is.
I mean, in fairness, some of the music is, like, obviously it's a show about a camp in the outdoors, and I feel like that's loosely related to SpongeBob enough, and, I mean...
If you're doing sound design on a cartoon around that era.
I'm pretty sure it was the same dude as well. I could be wrong.
Well, that's even worse. Dude, isn't it already obnoxious enough when you hear the same kind of music in Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom? Like, and that's by the same people, and it's still kind of annoying. Yeah, I mean, like, I like Guy Moon, like, don't get me wrong, but it's just like... the tone of Danny Phantom and the tone of Fairly Odd Parents are not always the same thing, and I don't necessarily want to be thinking about goofy Fairly Odd Parents when there's like an action scene going on in Danny Phantom. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it as much, and I feel like I noticed a lot of the Camp Lazlo SpongeBob music overlap when it comes to nautical things. I'm assuming that their selection of nautical music isn't very strong, but I mean, it happens on YouTube. Sometimes, I'll have like a lo-fi song in my video from a big music library, and then like I'll hear it in 5 other videos.
Yeah.
So it happens.
Right, but SpongeBob is huge. Anyway, we've had this discussion before.
Yeah.
Not a fan of this at all. The one joke I laughed at was the vague background characters that Raj calls them. He says vague background characters.
Oh, I almost forgot to bring that up. Yeah, that was probably like my favorite line out of like this entire invasion thing. That was so good.
Yeah, but as soon as they were like introduced and like they kept coming, like it was kind of obvious those were the aliens. And to me, anyway. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've seen this before. How about you, Kuro?
I didn't realize that because I thought they were finally going to not do that plot line. But like, I mean, I did realize it eventually, but like that wasn't the line that made me realize it. But
it's weird because the Canadians don't even feel that important.
They aren't.
Not really. They're just kind of the red herring, and that's all it is.
Ooh, they're weird.
Is it just me, or did like a lot of cartoons around that area make Canadian jokes?
Canada is, I mean, it was and still is one of the countries that it is acceptable to make jokes about.
I feel like it's a way to like...
Well, they're making fun of them for like things that aren't that... Like, people often make fun of Canadians for being too nice. Like, I wouldn't feel offended if that was like what I was being made fun of. Well,
that's the thing, because their stereotypes are generally kind. We're still, as a society...
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just funny how everybody was just like, well, we can be socially acceptably racist to Canadians, so. And I mean, they're not wrong, I guess, but it's just, it's weird. Like, I can think of so many different Canadian jokes and so many different cartoons.
I mean, I'll be honest also, it does feel like Canadian jokes are so detached from what actual Canadians are like.
Yeah. Like especially because, like, at least growing up, I didn't really have any frame of reference for, like, these Canadian stereotypes, so I didn't really get it. I was like, okay.
That's why we had Johnny Test.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's their culture migrating. All right, let's move on to cheese. Well, actually, what did you guys think of this overall? I've given my opinion that I thought pretty lowly of this.
I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. Like, I can imagine there were worse Camp Lazlo episodes than this one. No offense, monsters. But
no offense taken.
I didn't think that it was exemplary in any one way. It was just, like I said, it was a filler thing. It was like, okay, it happened, but it didn't really leave me feeling any different. I didn't, like, laugh out loud once. I mean, I smirked at the background characters, and I also thought them getting out of the fish disguise just to be fish. I don't know. I kind of smirked at that one too. But that was really all that I can even remember, and the word fetish. So that's my takeaway.
Yeah. How about you, Carl?
It was watchable, but it's also out of all the invaded episodes. When I was watching this was the only one I actually started to remember, and so I don't know. I guess it was just more bearable for me. But as an episode, I really just was not into it.
Like, I guess the best I can say is just that it doesn't have a token annoying character like a lot of the rest of these do.
I mean, there's Trip and Skip.
Yeah,
but they have like one line.
Yeah, they didn't shine too much.
They're not screaming something over and over again.
Yeah,
which is the thing in half of these episodes for some reason. How about you, monsters? I know you love Camp Lazlo. What did you think about this episode?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's one of the weaker ones overall. Yeah, it's okay. It's watchable. Nothing impressive.
This is now the fourth episode in a row?
Yes.
That's the similar plot. It might not be exactly following every detail of it, but it's the same plot of character thinks they're aliens, but they're not aliens, or they are aliens, or, like that shenanigans. And ordinarily I would say, oh, well, maybe it's not really fair to compare them because they're different shows, but it's like these were specifically made to be put together. And I'm not going to say I blame the creators of these shows, the people that worked on them, because they genuinely might not have known that every other show was doing this exact same gag. They might have been told by Cartoon Network to do it this way. I don't know. But the fact that it's the fourth one does not help its case.
Devil's advocate here. Like you mentioned before, you made the point that maybe a lot of these shows didn't want to have aliens, so they still wanted it to be contained within the show's scope and universe. So with that in mind, you can't like really go to an alien planet or something and have it still be like grounded. So there's only a small selection of things that you can choose from.
Right, but Camp Lazlo doesn't care about showing aliens, so why did they bother with the same stupid thing? That's a defense of the other episodes, not this one.
Well, I mean, then why would it be a good Camp Lazlo episode if it's not on the camp?
I don't know. I mean, none of them are, but
I don't know.
Just kidding. Are there not episodes that take place away from the camp? They go to the ski lounge. I'm not saying they have to go to an alien base, but why couldn't it be like, why couldn't they just like fight off an alien invasion or something? Or maybe the aliens slowly kidnap someone. Maybe it is an invasion of the body snatchers, right? That's not characters are disguised as aliens. That's characters are getting abducted by aliens. That's an alien plot line that's pretty well known. Samson does get abducted by an alien. And that's the thing. It's like it starts off thinking, okay, this is going to be something different, and then like a few minutes in, it's just like, nope, we're back here. Here we are. Yeah. So, but what would you say then? Would you say you enjoyed this? You didn't. It's your Camp Lazlo bias, and because I'm being so hard on it, you really, really, really want to defend it.
I'm cracking, yeah.
I'm calling you on it. And that's why this is going to be a great 60th episode. All right, well, fine. Hold your opinion for later, then. Next up, we have cheese orbs. Kuro, would you like to tell us what cheese orbs is about?
The aliens from the last episode just cross over to the Girl Scouts cabin, and what's the giraffe character?
Nina.
So she basically takes them in because she they want a place to hide out for the cheese festival because that's their whole thing. And her two friends start getting jealous that she's hanging out with the aliens. So pink-haired character.
Her name's Pinta, and
Pinta.
the giraffe is Santa Maria.
Learned the names, yeah.
The crocodile Santa Maria.
So she exploits her allergy against cheese so that she'll puff up and look like an alien to try to win her friend back. And
if that sounds stupid,
it's different for once. We got something different here. So,
dude, Flat Patsy with an allergic reaction is hilarious.
And Lazlo's in this.
Yeah.
Was he even in the last episode? I don't know.
He was. They show up to like make fun of Samson. They just show up to bully him.
That's it.
Lazlo's like, "You're an idiot." Probably not like that, but he's like,
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say this episode was much better. It was nice to have a change of pace, even though we did kind of have a character intentionally pretending to be an alien. This time, they were trying... Yeah, so there we go.
Oh, God.
There's not really much to it beyond that.
Remember, kids, if you're losing your friend, have an allergic reaction to guilt them.
Exactly.
Your friend again.
I feel like I've seen that before.
I mean, it's a different plot line, and for one, like, I was like, yay, because legitimately, I was thinking it was going to be the same exact episode, but with the girl beans. Like, it could have been, right? It legitimately could have been. Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a big relief for me too. Like after all of a sudden I was like, I still wasn't that into it, but at least it was different.
That's the only note that I wrote for this episode. Holy cow, a different plot line. That's all I got, because it's not, I don't think it's funny. I think the whole, like, friends being jealous thing, I guarantee you they've done that at least, like, 3 times on Camp Lazlo with Lazlo and his friends. Like, it's not, and the fact that they're aliens is, like, inconsequential. There are real aliens, but they're just treated like some other friends of Nina's. And it's just dumb. Why?
Yeah, it's like we finally get, like, actual aliens, and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
No. It makes the last episode look even, like, worse in a way, because last episode Samson was getting crap from people for being like, oh, the aliens are real. And then here, the aliens are real, and, like, they're in front of not everyone, but almost everyone, and no one bats an eye this time, and it's like, well, then, what? Doesn't that undermine the last episode?
To your statement, Monsters, I feel like if this was meant to be taken as one, like, just like a 2-part episode, technically, Samson would have shown up at the end and, like, been vindicated or something. Like, there would have been some reference to the events of the first episode, because, the second one's just like, oh yeah, aliens are here, whatever, who cares? I don't know. I don't have anything else.
I didn't like this.
Wow.
I'm being straight up, didn't like it. I liked the Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster gag. How Patsy's like, come out here, we got Bigfoot. And he's like, I don't care. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't have anything to say about this episode. Other than it's kind of like... the whole thing is like running out of steam by this, if it had any steam to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I feel like maybe the executives realized this, and maybe that's why they did like 1 new episode a week instead of putting them all like.
All right. So first up, Camp Lazlo. Where's Lazlo?
Did I hear somebody say Camp Lazlo?
Did you hear that, Shadow? Was there some sort of voice?
I might have. I don't know.
What? It's
Monsters
me. It's
Review!
Monsters Review. Yeah. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Here he is. Oh, buddy, man, I miss you.
Legend.
As you could tell, I had to drag the entire couch with me. So.
Yep. Fun fact: Monsters has not left the recast couch. He just lives there now.
Yeah, it's great. Although it's a bit itchy.
Oh man, yep. So Monsters Review is here because otherwise this would probably just turn into a big let's dump on Camp Lazlo fest.
Pretty much.
Listen, you can't just exclude me from this. I need to be present at all and any discussion about this series.
I want you to know people were very excited. Like they hoped that you'd be on this episode. They prayed, and here you are.
All I'm going to say is that there is a reason why my Twitter bio says self-proclaimed biggest fan of Camp Lazlo. So,
I don't think anyone's fighting you for that title.
No, you're right on that. Nobody cares.
All right. So, Where's Lazlo is the only hour-long Lazlo special. It is an episode in which Lazlo is missing, which leads Raj, instead of looking for him, to tell us the tale. Actually, I don't know who's he even telling. He's not telling anyone. Clem was there anyway.
Reflecting on himself.
Reminiscing.
Yeah.
You know, Monsters, the second you left, right? When you left, I sat on the recast couch and I thought, like, where's Monsters?
Right. And then you obviously just said out loud an entire origin story about everything.
Yep. Yeah. I read, yeah. So anyway, Raj reminisces about the first time they met Lazlo. The three of them get to camp. They find out that Scoutmaster Lumpus is like a strict military guy, apparently, and they get assigned the loser cabin. Lazlo is weird and eccentric and befriends a bear, it really scares everyone else, so Lazlo just kind of leaves camp, and then they find him.
They find Lazlo. They ask,
guys.
Where's Lazlo? And it's like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, he was a waiter this whole time.
At Beef Lumberjack. And win an Emmy, yeah. The Emmy Award-winning Camp Lazlo, let's not forget, folks.
This one didn't win.
I'm pretty sure it did.
Oh, God, did it? You know what? Let's not spoil
We'll find
it. Anyway.
out at the end of the show, so keep watching until the end to find out.
Okay, well, anyway, yeah, Camp Lazlo is a boring show that comes off as SpongeBob light, thanks in part to the same sound library. And seeing it in an hour-long feature in quotes, just kind of really dragged it out. This story did not need an hour to be told. It also reminds me a lot of, 8 other Camp Lazlo episodes, including the stupid Sea Lamprey one. It seems like Lazlo is always befriending an animal that other people are bothered by. It's not new for the show, it's not fresh, and it seems like an utter waste of a TV movie.
How dare you?
Go on, Mom.
I didn't make time and show up here just to hear this slander. Okay? Camp Lazlo is a piece of art. The hand-painted backgrounds are beautiful and widescreen high definition. Tom Kenny, Carlos Alazraqui, Mr. Lawrence, they all give the performances of their lifetime. I think this is perfect for award season, okay?
I'm going to meet you guys in the middle and say it was just kind of alright, but not really good.
I didn't think it was an abomination. I just thought it was boring. It's kind of the same way I feel a lot about any SpongeBob special that's over an hour and maintains the same story, where it's just too much for a cartoon like this. Even if you like the slapstick, I just feel like it stretching the same story out. It's like, how much can we see of the bear terrorizing camp? And the bear's really goofy too, so there's never any actual threat. It's very weird. Genuinely, I'm not trying to just dump on Camp Lazlo just to dump on it. I'm saying that genuinely, I think that it's also kind of weird because they hype it up. First of all, the whole thing's called Where's Lazlo, so you think him being missing would be a bigger deal, but it doesn't really happen until much later, and there's so much of the same stuff with the bear. I would have rather seen more of an actual origin for these characters instead of just, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a good origin story.
I mean, I agree with you on that front. I remember when this came out, it was a big deal to fans of the show like me, just because it was promoted in that way. It was like, where's Lazlo? He's missing. I don't even think I really expected it to be this sort of origin story of finding out how everybody met up at Camp Kidney, but it was a welcome surprise. I think, again, as a fan of the show, I just found it really endearing. And we do sort of get a few details about the characters in their lives before. We find out Raj is kind of this sheltered, privileged kid. Lazlo, obviously, he doesn't really change much. He's just sort of bombastic and animated and and
If anything,
over the
he's
top and
weirder
very
in
friendly.
this than he is later.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, he shows up in like a banana vehicle that, of course, we see a lot of Scoutmaster Olympus getting run over by things and just bodily harm.
how did you feel about Scoutmaster Squidward being, like a military? Like the camp is run with an iron fist, and then they don't even really explain how this changes that. Like, is Lazlo just such a disturbance to Olympus that he no longer can rule with an iron fist, or?
Well, that's like one of the biggest dynamics in the show is that Edward is a giant kiss up, and then Edward is jealous of Lazlo.
I'm pretty sure his name is Plankton.
Mr. Lawrence, yes. And then Lazlo is like the only person that seemingly makes Olympus look like a buffoon, because every time Olympus has this big scheme or tries to, have an activity of sorts, Lazlo either crashes it or just makes him look like an idiot.
Yeah, that was kind of the dynamic that I got. I have not seen this show in like over 10 years, like except for the aliens thing we watched a while back. But other than that, like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't find this special particularly memorable, and I kind of agree. I think the bear sequence went on way longer than it really needed to, and it felt very meandering, like almost like this was two separate episodes kind of stitched together. Where, like,
it is.
Well, no, but I mean, like, because like the way it's told, it's like it starts with the bear story, and then it goes to the Where's Lazlo, and then the bear thing like kind of comes back at the end. I feel like if they just took all the bear stuff and put that in one episode, and then them trying to find Lazlo in another episode, it would have been better than kind of like trying to mesh them. But it really didn't work here, I don't think.
Not to make another SpongeBob comparison, but like Camp Lazlo is also interesting in that obviously all of the characters are sort of anthropomorphized animals or creatures, and then there are also these sort of like feral versions of the creatures that also exist, because obviously the episode largely revolves around a bear with pine cones stuck in its nostrils, but also, like, you go to the scene towards the end and at Beef Lumberjacks in Prickly Pines, where Lazlo ends up working as a waiter, and the first thing you see is like a bear wearing like plaid clothing with a chainsaw cutting up some meat. So
yeah, my point earlier, it's more just it's, I don't know, I got the vibe from the beginning of this that Lumpus had control over the camp, right? And that Lazlo was going to be the thing that kind of really disrupts everything. But I don't feel like the story played out like that. I don't know. Maybe that's just because, like, they introduce him as kind of a tough guy, when I know in the show he's just a butt monkey all around, not just because of Lazlo's actions. I don't know. And I also feel like Foreign Origin, it doesn't really, the characters aren't really that different. Like, what's the point of, I guess, it's still the same summer years, so it can't be too much younger, but I just feel like this was a lot of wasted potential. And it's not just because I don't really like Camp Lazlo. It's also just because I think that they had a shot here to really do something, and it feels like they took an 11-minute idea and stretched it out, and it doesn't translate very well for the kind of cartoon this is.
Well, I mean, it's also, let's not forget, it's not really a show with like consistent continuity. It's not a continuity heavy show. So, I don't think it really. Personally, I think this is better than Truth or Square, which is like another example of an origin type series with a completely different and unrelated series.
Was Truth or Square before this or after this?
After, I believe.
Okay.
I believe it was after. Someone can correct me on that. Anywho, like, yeah, it's I don't know. There's a lot of cool things sprinkled in here that are appealing for fans of the show too. Like, towards the beginning, Samson gets hit by a volleyball, and he's like, gee, that's the first time that's happened. And that's like a running gag throughout the series, that Samson just regularly gets pelted by a volleyball for no apparent reason. And then also, like, the making of the totem pole and stuff, which is like a very central set piece of the Jelly Bean Cabin. So
that's fair. I'll give you that. Not being super insanely familiar with it, it's possible that I definitely missed some references.
Yeah, I recognize the totem pole thing. That was actually one of the notes I had written down. I thought that was a really cool addition that they threw in there.
Yeah. for sure.
But yeah, no, like, I mean, I think that there were many ways that they could have made this a bit more impactful. It's definitely different than a lot of other episodes because they leave the camp, and most of the episodes take place in the camp, obviously. But no, I mean, I love the art, all of the hand-painted backgrounds. The sound design is exquisite. Every time a character makes any movement, really, or any sort of, change in their facial expression, there's always a sound to sort of supplement it. Yeah, it's just, I think it's overall a very entertaining episode. I don't think it's the best that Camp Lazlo has to offer, but it is memorable in my opinion, and it's always something I look back to when I think about the series.
One thing I will also say, Monsters, is that you for this show, you very graciously offered your time to talk about this episode. So you didn't watch the other episodes, the other specials, and
I did not.
I will say, I mean, I know you've seen it. I'm sure you know it. It's also very strange that this very same within a year, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends has an episode about a character running away that's also an origin. And I mean, I guess light spoilers for the thing that Shadow and I will talk about next, but if you have to watch this Camp Lazlo episode and that Foster's episode back to back, it's like night and day in terms of one of them. Again, regardless of however you feel, it's just Foster's is a lot more ambitious and clever and just really, really touching in a way that this is a gag cartoon, which is completely fine, nothing wrong with it. But Foster's is a joke heavy cartoon that then also pulled something great out for its TV movie. Having to watch both of them, I think, made me appreciate this just less.
I can see that, and I have an admission to make, and that is I do think Good Will Hunting is better. It's more emotional. I think it has more to offer in that way. But yeah, I mean, for Camp Lazlo, for someone like me, I find it to be a great special, and especially I liked watching it in widescreen because, growing up, obviously, watching it on Cartoon Network, that was pre-high definition when most things were still sort of low def 4:3, but I watched this on the Boomerang streaming service, and seeing everything in 16:9 was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I watched it on Boomerang through Amazon, free trial of that. I can't believe that service still exists.
I know, right?
One addendum I wanted to say, too, is... correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Operation Zero, which is an origin movie, also come out around this time?
It did. It came out in the same year. It did.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not joking. It's funny you mentioned that, but we'll get back to that later.
That seems to just be the... I don't know. I mean, I
they
guess
were making a lot
sense.
of TV movies around that time.
There were no...
I loved it, man. I loved that period of Cartoon Network.
There were no TV movies by Cartoon Network in 2005, so they made up for it in 2006/7 by releasing like a bunch all at once. So
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot else to say about Lazlo. I didn't hate this. I don't genuinely think that Lazlo is like one of the worst cartoons ever made or whatever. I may have played that up on the recast, but I just think that it doesn't. I think it can't compete. I think that's the thing. There's there's a decent amount of heavy gag based cartoons out there. SpongeBob, Rocco before this, Fairly Odd Parents. There's a lot of shows like that, and the camp angle is an angle for sure, but it's not the most unique angle for a TV show. So when you compare the fact that I don't think that its humor is particularly strong, I just think that it becomes a victim of just not being that interesting versus being really actively bad.
That's fair. I totally get that. A lot of people have called it bland, which I totally understand. And when people look back at the show, they either look at it as being the sort of nostalgic gem, or they look at it as being part of this like cartoons era of Cartoon Network, lumping it in with stuff like Chowder and Flapjack and kind of writing it off.
Boy.
Yeah.
Right. Which
Girl Boy. My Gym Partner's a Monkey is another monkey show around the time that people, call bland. Like, I could see people kind of bunching them all up into the same ball.
That's what I do.
Which I think is unfair.
right.
A banana bunching them up into a banana.
Very apt.
I will say, I think in terms of the Cartoon Network shows starring an orange monkey, Camp Lazlo is probably the better one.
Hey,
So,
I'll take it.
I do
I'm
enjoy
trying
Camp Lazlo. Like, even as a kid, I enjoyed this show way more than I did, like, My Gym Partner's a Monkey or anything like that.
I reference you all back to something we were a part of called the Cartoon Network Invaded Recast Special.
That was one time, my friend. I'm talking about the
I'm
whole
just
series.
Godfried shows up as a platypus, okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
which
like
is
that's
hilarious.
That's an unfair advantage right there. That was one episode. I'm talking about the series as a whole, my guy. As a whole. I really don't care for My Gym Partner.
Man, we've made so much audio together. It's weird. You can reference back to a lot of things. Like, thank you for the super chat, Zane, who asked, is Camp Lazlo better than Sonic?
No.
I haven't indulged myself in Sonic, so I don't know, but I'm just gonna say yes.
I'm gonna say no. I'm starting to come around on Sonic.
Yes! One of us. One of us.
Shush. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, yeah, it's pretty. I noticed quite a few coloration errors in this special. I don't know why, but I noticed them. Nothing too bad. But it is very pretty, and it is cool seeing it in HD. I always love that, like, Teen Titans especially is one of those shows that when it released on Cartoon Network, it was always in 4:3, and then seeing it for the first time years later in HD is always just like nice.
Yeah,
like that's
right.
It's like getting a remaster, even though it was just made this good from the start. Technology couldn't handle it. You weren't ready for this one, but your kids are gonna love it.
If only they streamed this on something more mainstream than the Boomerang app.
So is that what Boomerang is? A place for cartoons that not a lot of people want to watch? No, I mean Scooby-Doo and Looney Tunes. But Looney Tunes is on HBO Max, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I think maybe they just forgot. Maybe they forgot they still have Boomerang.
I also think
Over
Courage
at
the
Warner.
Cowardly Dog is on both. I'm pretty sure. Which is
Hey,
also
that's
weird.
not an option. Both is never an option.
Apparently, between Boomerang and HBO Max, it is, because you can watch it on either of them.
All right. I think that's about all for Camp Lazlo.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what I was saying, like, I don't think it's anything profound. I think it's enjoyable, especially if you're a fan of the show, and I totally get it if the show is never for you and you go into this expecting something super funny and charming, and you might not find that. But I think Raj actually says it well. There's a scene where they're in the bathroom at the restaurant, and like Raj is like, Lazlo, you're important because you teach us about nature and camping and how it's fun to go outside and stuff. And even though I've always been a bit of an introvert, that's sort of the value I found in Camp Lazlo. So
completely fair, man. I'm glad it means something to you. Yeah, don't worry though, because Shadow and I will be back next week to talk about more Camp Lazlo.
Yep.
This is not the first time it was
Not over
nominated.
yet. Not over yet.
Nope. Well, Monsters, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime, I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Yeah, see you around, man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I miss hanging out with that guy.
I know, right?
We made good content.
Those were the days.
By the way, we recorded a new recast. So.
Wait, what? We did?
Yeah, I mean, if you pay attention, you may find a clue later in this stream. That is all.
What? All right, bye, monsters.
Bye, monsters. Oh, that was awesome.
Well, there you guys have it. There's a recast reunion that I recorded already. Whoops. So, yeah, coming soon.
And Monsters took the couch with him, so now we have to stand for the rest of the show.
Yeah. Well, he's got to go back and make the set look good for the next recast,
That's fair, that's fair.
He's got to take all his clothes off of it. You didn't see the other half of it, but man, he's just hanging laundry and all that stuff.
Listen, man, I've had to hold this note card up for 17 streams. I need a break. I just want to sit down.
Also, Shadow, I have news for you.
Oh, what's that?
You're not invited to that recast.
So second up, we've got Camp Lazlo with the pairing of Hello Dolly and Overcooked Beans.
God. Okay. Hello Dolly is an episode in which Perry the Platypus. No, Plankton. Nope. Edward, the brash, mean boy, is caught playing with a doll, and he lies and says that he's gonna blow it up. And then everyone in camp gets real excited that he's gonna destroy this doll. But as it turns out, he loves this doll, and he's ashamed that that he's embarrassed of it all. And then Lazlo finds out that Edward loves the doll, and then tells a lie that helps Edward save the doll. Mm-hmm. The other episode, what was it? Heat roasted beans or something?
Overcooked beans.
Overcooked beans. A magical air conditioning unit falls out of the sky, and everyone fights over it. That's the story.
Yep. Yeah, that's the story.
Wait, who's that off screen? Is that Monsters Review?
No.
No.
Not this time.
All right. So remember how I said Camp Lazlo wasn't really that bad last week?
I do remember that, Pi. Would you like to make a correction?
I take it all back. Camp Lazlo is a criminally boring show. I really genuinely hate this show. Honestly, the TV movie was probably one of the better things that came out of the show, because this is just... Okay, look, the thing that I have that's nice about Hello Dolly, at least, and probably the reason why this was nominated, the concept of Edward... I almost called him Eduardo. The fact that he plays with a doll, and the episode does not shame him for playing with a doll, a traditionally feminine object. I think that is a lovely message.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
However, Camp Lazlo is boring. It is so boring. And when you're not bored, you're just reminded of SpongeBob.
Yes. Literally.
Shadow, you didn't talk that much about Camp Lazlo next week, so I won't hog the conversation. I'll let you talk about how you feel about these.
So here's what I have to say. I 100% agree. The message of Hello Dolly is the best thing I have to say about this entire pairing. Because it's let people like what they want to like. Nobody should be shamed for liking something that is necessarily outside of their demographic, for lack of a better term. I think that as far as the episode went, specifically Hello Dolly first, it was very, very slow. Like, the entire conflict of the episode is dragged out. Like, it feels like there should have been more conflict, essentially, because it feels like the first half of the episode is just Edward playing with his doll, and then the second half is, like, just him trying to justify that it's not his and then promising to blow it up. But it's like, and the concept of, like, blowing something up is, like, typically seemed as, like, cool, explosions, hey, that's awesome. Well, Camp Lazlo found a way to make that unfun, because it's not even exciting. Like, there's not even a dramatic explosion. He just pumps it up with air, and then a pickle just, like, pops, and then it rains
pickle, you say?
Pickles. Yeah, it's the funniest blank I've ever seen, except not really. Not really at all. Yeah, I mean, as for the second episode, though, and we were making these comparisons during our watch, it is literally Crabs a la mode. But, like, this episode technically came first. But, like, the weird thing, and I just noticed this now while we were talking about it, the whole, like, Crabs a la mode versus Overcooked Beans, it's kind of going for a similar pun, too. Like, even in the episode title. Like,
but as it turns out, Crabs a la mode came out after this and was made after this.
Yes, which is
so it's just
strange.
Weird similarities. It's not. I'm not claiming Camp Lazlo ripped anything off. It's all weird too, because Joe Murray made Rocco, which Stephen Hillenburg worked on and Tom Kenny worked on. Like SpongeBob exists in large part because Rocco exists, and then Camp Lazlo came along, created by the guy who, like, kind of helped shape what SpongeBob would become by working with other people. Like, it's all a big mess. I don't say it reminds me of SpongeBob to cast blame on anyone. Yeah. I'm just saying that, like, from a perspective, and the thing is, I don't know that I would be that distracted if Camp Lazlo wasn't so boring.
Yeah, not to mention, and again, the big qualm with me, and as you've also brought up before, is the sound library is exactly the same. Like, using the sound library of a show that's so iconic in some other form of media, it's very difficult not to notice it.
Yeah.
And it just like takes me out of the whole experience because I just keep thinking of this other better show that I like more.
The weird thing too is Rocko's Modern Life didn't use that sound library. I don't think. Maybe for one song here or there, but by and large it had its own soundtrack. But I think the sound library thing kind of just like Camp Lazlo, I can't sum it up in one thing, really. It's just like, it's a lot of things that are just not that interesting put together, and I don't know, it's like, I want to like this show. I watched it as a kid, I did. Ren and Stimpy used the sound library too.
Yes,
that's true, but from what I remember, they didn't use the problem is this uses a lot of the more popular SpongeBob songs. Like I don't know if I'm crazy, but I feel like the sound library that they get these things from is a big library, right? Like with lots and lots of music, and for whatever reason, this just shares a lot of the same songs as SpongeBob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sound effects too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, literally the answer to this episode's problems came falling out of the sky. I know I made that joke during our watch, but I gotta say it again because it's true.
The problem is really it's the kind of cartoon that SpongeBob is, and there can exist many comedic cartoons out there, of course, but it's just there's just so many similarities, and this doesn't offer anything original. It just doesn't. There's nothing in here, right? A camp setting like that hasn't been done before in many forms of media. The voice cast, it's like all Nickelodeon people. It's got like, quirky main character and grumpy other guy that gets annoyed by him all the time. That and I think the slapstick is not good. I think the actual like cartooniness, it's slow. It's slow and it's long, and every episode, for whatever reason, it's like in the other episode, in the one with the air conditioning unit, what happens is Camp Lazlo hooks it up in his cabin, and then Edward's cabin steals it, and then another cabin steals it from Edward, and then another cabin literally 4 times we see this what is essentially the same scene. It doesn't progress, it doesn't escalate, it doesn't add to some sort of crazy thing. It's just kind of slow in the way it moves, and I don't. And yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Michael. It does feel like a Cartoon Network show that's trying to be Nickelodeon. Like, this show would fit more on Nickelodeon.
Absolutely it would. Absolutely.
I don't know. CDCB, I will say, I agree. The one joke that I thought was alright was when Edward, there's a flashback to Christmas, which I feel like should be significant because I don't think we usually see the characters like parents or other seasons or anything in this show, but maybe I'm wrong. It's Christmas and he gets the doll and he's so enamored with it, he tells his mom, she's like, but what about your other presents? And he's like, donate them to charity. Yeah, and then the scene cuts away fast. Yeah. That's a funny joke. And it's so fast and he's so harsh in the way he says it and that's a good joke. But so much of the humor in this, it's just, I don't know. I mean, you see those 2 purple dudes in the background? Guess what? They're stupid characters.
Yeah, Chip and Skip.
And most of their dialogue is just being like, I didn't know you could blow up a doll. Really? I didn't know that either. Yeah. Like, that's their dialogue.
It's very, very slow. Like, they speak so slowly.
And it's not humor. Like, imagine if Patrick was cut in 2.
Yeah.
And then spoke slower. And was somehow dumber. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, I did not find this episode very enjoyable either. I mean, it wasn't outright badly written. Either of them weren't like badly written. They were just bland. They were dull.
It's just, yeah. Spot on chip and skip impression. I don't know. And again, I genuinely do feel bad for this because I know there are people that feel passionately about the show. And I know I don't necessarily do the best job of articulating why I don't like it, because I don't think it's as easy to describe why this doesn't work as it is like something that's aggressively bad. Like, we can talk about why Big Mouth doesn't work, for hours. Like, there are a lot of things that we could sit and describe about why that doesn't work tonally or this or that. This, with Camp Lazlo, it's more just, I really think that the show just needs to be cranked up. The craziness, the speed of it, the stakes of what goes on. That's another thing. The stakes of these episodes are always just pretty low. I mean, Edward and a doll, like, okay, sure. But it's just like every episode kind of feels like that, where it's, I don't know. I honestly didn't really feel like they were ever going to blow up the doll in this episode, because they make such a big fuss about how much Edward likes it. They don't really keep you on your like, you could have milked that for more tension and drama. And dude, okay, so what happens is Edward tells Lazlo the doll is in his cabin, go get it. And Lazlo goes, and I kid you not. What did I tell you, Shadow? What did I tell you? Laszlo's gonna see a picture of Edward and the doll, realize what's going on, and cover for him. Yeah. And guess what happens? That exact thing, down to the picture. Literally a picture of Edward and the doll that he just has for some reason, even though he's trying to hide this.
Yeah. Yeah, and he has the whole house set or whatever too, and it's just like, where was this in all the other episodes? I mean, I know it's
a cartoon. I mean,
I know. It's just like, the dude's trying to hide this stuff, but he's got so much of it that it's just like, you really expect me to believe that he just has all of this stuff in his cabin? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it's a cartoon.
I think, yeah. I just need more, and it just, I don't know. It's also, I mean, it is like SpongeBob in that a lot of it is based on the comedy, and so if it's not doing that well, it's just, you're not feeling much. If you have less, I guess, experience watching a cartoon, if you haven't seen as many cartoons in your life, maybe when you watch this, you will be more enamored and excited and surprised by what happens. But for me, it just,